Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
Venezuela is going to be mentioned by somebody. It is a travesty on what's going on in Venezuela. It is also very sensitive. So I'm going to give two different perspectives in today's video. You know, if you look at what's going on in Venezuela, the average Venezuelan, they say, lost 24 pounds in 2017. Nearly 5 million estimated have escaped and left Venezuela to other countries. Colombia apparently took in 1 million. 1 million students are not going to school because there's no teachers and they don't have food. Kids are eating food like rotten meat is what they're eating because there is nothing to buy. Minimum wage has gone from $3.50 to $7 a month. A cup of coffee that used to cost 450 bolivars to buy costs 2.5 million bolivars to buy today. 5,000 journalists detained because they spoke up against Maduro. You know, just recently, Richard Branson put a big concert in Colombia right across the border. You know, the whole story about what's going on, let's try to free Venezuela. 200 and some thousand people showed up to this concert. Same exact day Maduro put a concert in Venezuela, a few hundred people showed up, saying hands off of Venezuela. Then you got Guaido that is trying to help Venezuelans, the opposition to Maduro, and everyone's wondering what is really going on. So today's episode, I'm going to share with you 10 things that you and I can learn from what's taking place in Venezuela, and I'm going to give you data about oil reserves about Venezuela that's going to shock.
Today I'm reacting to a video made by Value Entertainment by Patrick Bet David. In case you don't know him, he's very big on the entrepreneur sphere. His channel, Value Entertainment, one of my favorites, and he did a video titled 10 Things to Learn about Venezuela, and he also did a couple regards, couple statements about Venezuela, about the oil, inflation, and price of oil. So let's start, let's review what he has to say.
With oil reserve leaders around the world. What countries? This number that says 266,455, this is in millions barrels. So if I put millions, I would need to add 6 more zeros. So go figure. They're the leading country in the world with the most barrels, right? So when you look at the leading countries in the world with the most barrels in reserves, you look at US at the bottom at 39,230, right? Times million, which means 39 billion, right? You look at Libya, 48. You look at Russia, 80. You look at United Arab Emirates, 97.8. Kuwait, 101. Iraq, 142. Iran, 158. Canada, no one talks about 169. Saudi Arabia, which is what everybody talks about. They're the biggest. When you think about oil, you think about Saudi Arabia. Sheikh, you think about Prince. These are the guys that have all the oil, right? Right? It is the Middle East, right? Nope. Number one in the world is Venezuela. You ready? 300,878 times 1 million barrels. They are number one. U.S. is number 10. So why is it such a big mess?
Well, first he mentions about the Venezuela being the number one country regarding oil reserves with 300 billion barrels of oil reserve, of proven reserves, ahead of Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran, and the United States itself, and Canada also as well. And well, if you watch this content regularly, you already know that. The other thing mentions the price of oil. Many people blame the collapse of the Venezuelan economy due to the oil price. It has something to do with that, but the main reason is corruption, basically, and there's no way to get around that, but it's still affected quite a bit. Inflation is a consequence of many bad economic policies here in the country. It's not the cause of the collapse, it's a consequence of the collapse. We already discussed what happened with inflation. Also mentions Juan Guaido, because I have to say this video was made on early 2019, and what happened is Guaido, according to a legal loophole on the constitution, Guaido back then was the speaker, was the president of the Venezuelan Congress. He is quote unquote opposition. Although I have to say right now, Guaido is a scam artist, he's a corrupt, is worse actually that the Venezuelan government, and everything was a scam. Actually, he's a very corrupt individual. His administration, that quote unquote interim administration outside Venezuela, actually stole and mismanaged around $1 billion on humanitarian aid and also strategic assets of Venezuela on international that was taken from the Venezuelan government and gave it to Juan Guaido and his cronies, and they squandered everything. Just to clear that out, of course, back then, Patrick David didn't know that, probably doesn't know it right now. And the last part is, well, yeah, you see on the news, you see the headlines, you saw the headlines back then, and we explain, we already keep continuing explaining what happened, what didn't happen, what you saw on the news, what is true, what is false, what is kind of in the middle, what is in a gray area, and such and such and so on. So right now, what are we going to do is to make review these 10 things that David learned about Venezuela.
To this, because sometimes these things can come back and affect you. Number one thing, if your country solely relies on a natural resource, and that natural resource's pricing you don't control. Other factors around the world can dictate what the price of your oil is going to be per barrel. One thing happens,
So number one is natural resources aren't enough, and I completely agree. It actually can boost your economy, but also with mismanagement and corruption and stuff like that, and power concentration in the hands of a few people that can destroy an economy, and also talks about the social welfare programs that, quote unquote, we have here in Venezuela, that it was just for a handful of people, not by the entire population, I have to say, and right now are mostly bankrupt, and back then, 2019, they were mostly bankrupt as well.
Outside of just that. Number two, when there's no food, when there's no medicine, the nicest person in the world can commit crime if that person has a kid. Let me say this again.
Number two is people commit crime when there is no food or medicine. That is completely false. I totally disagree with Patrick David on this remark. Here's why. Because I live in Venezuela, I live the entire crisis, and the people who commits the crime are people who are morally bankrupt. People who are salt of the earth, with good values and such. They didn't commit crimes even when they were lacking food, medicine for their families, for their children, and such. They try to do the best for what they got back then, and some people, they suffer a lot, I have to say, and sadly some people even die for lack of medicine and stuff, and they have pretty a rough standard of living, and it was sad, I have to say. But the people who committed the crimes are the people who always commits the crimes. And I'm not talking about the big crimes with corruption and such, talking even on the ground level, the people who committed crimes, people who always commit crimes. And that's not what I see here in Venezuela, that because people were poorer, they were committing more crimes. The people who always commit the crimes here in Venezuela were actually people who are criminals, they are corrupt, without values, without morals, and they enjoy committing those crimes. So completely disagree with Patrick David on that.
Crime goes to the roof. Number three, look, you go to dinner, your dad pays the bill. Fine. You go to dinner, you pay the bill for your dad. Fine. You go to dinner, somebody pays your bill because that person's a millionaire. One time, fine. Two times, fine. You don't work for them. This is a friend. Imagine a guy you party with, okay? And you party with this guy. Every time you go out with this guy that's partying, I got the bill on the house. Bar, on me. Order your drinks. Club, on me. Bottle services, table, all on me. I got it, guys. Oh my gosh, he's so cool. He's so cool. He's so cool. There's two problems going on there. One, the problem is that guy who now has 50 people with his entourage that go to clubs, the day money goes, those 50 people disappear like this. He's buying friends. You're funding friends.
Number three is don't let anyone pay your bills. Of course, yes, he says maybe a dinner with a friend and such, maybe. But yes, on the long run, you should pay your own bills, learn how to pay your own bills, and some of that kind of thing happen here for some people, a minority, but still a big minority here in Venezuela. That thing happened. I have to agree.
Your life. Number 4, one of the most manipulative words you have to be very careful with. Elections about to come out. Everybody's using this word. Free college education. My name is Bernie. Free college, free college, free college. How can we be the richest country in the world and we don't offer free college? How can we be the richest country in the world? Richest country in the world. Free. Boom.
Number 4 is free is the most dangerous word used by politicians. He mentions Bernie Sanders and such. And I agree on that regard, although I don't agree with the free college thing. Here's why. Because what happened is we had free college here in Venezuela way before the Chavismo were on office, were on power. And what happened over there? Well, on these public colleges that we have, that actually some of them have greater standards than the private colleges. I went to a public college, and you have not these stupid degrees that you got on the United States, like social studies and liberal studies and gender studies and all that nonsense. We had the public schools were for medicine, engineering, accounting, and basically STEM degrees. And at the long run, that helps society because you have well prepared people. I'm a capitalist. I'm a libertarian. I love the free market. Although free college, when it's done correctly, helps a society. So I disagree on that with Patrick Better.
Place the word free with the F-bomb. Number 5, never give too much control to the government. Listen, even if the most noble, spiritual, whatever church-going person takes over, and you say, what a nice man, and he decides to change everything. He changes the Constitution, is what Chavez did. He creates his own house, which is what Chavez did.
Number 5 is never give too much power to politicians. And I completely agree on that regard. I'm a libertarian. I like small governments and such. And that's not what we have in Venezuela. And yeah, I completely agree. Something that you should learn as well.
Remember that. Number 6, many American politicians praised Venezuela in the 2000s. Oh my gosh, look at Venezuela.
Number 6 is many American politicians praised Venezuela during the 2000s. And yes, most of these socialists, extreme left-wing, left-leaning politicians over there in the States, like Bernie Sanders or AOC, people like that. Yes, they praise Venezuela wrongfully. It was a mistake by them, and yeah, it's despicable of what this. I'm talking these extreme left politicians on the state because the not for instance the Democrat Party, the Democrats, it's not like all Democrats supported Venezuelans. Actually, many Democrats on that party, they were center of the party. Actually, they consider despicable things that were happening here in Venezuela. So the extreme left of the Democrats, yeah, the extreme left, yes, they supported to a certain degree what happened here in Venezuela.
But it doesn't work. Next, number 7, pay close attention to your taxes. I've been saying this for so many years. Listen, go study taxes. Taxes is so boring. One of the lines I've heard for years is there's 2 guarantees in life. You're going to die, you're going to be taxed.
Number 7 is pay attention to taxes. I agree with that remark, although taxes weren't a big deal here in Venezuela. Venezuela never had this high tax burden. We don't have high taxes. The most, the biggest burden regarding taxes here in Venezuela is VAT, the sales tax, that is fluctuated between 10 and 16%. And the other thing is import taxes, especially for cars and automobiles, stuff like that. But after that, Venezuela is kind of low on the tax bill.
And when it comes down to taxes, that takes me to point number 8 is the power of incentives. A country, whatever they create as an incentive, that's what people go after. Meaning, if Venezuela says, no incentive, don't worry about it. We'll give you an income, we'll give you food, we'll give you this, we'll give you housing, we'll give you all this stuff. Don't worry about it, we'll give it to you. Incentive go.
Number 8 is the power of incentives. Yes, the incentives are the engine, the soul of an economy, of not only economic growth, but personal growth. If you have the right incentive in order to do the right things, you are going to try your best to achieve great things. So, completely agree.
Not. Innovation doesn't go high. Number 9, sometimes a crisis wakes up a nation. Look, one of the reasons why I totally feel for the people of Venezuela and what they're going through this is because when you have so much power with oil, when you are number 1 oil reserves, everybody, you're like the beautiful girl that every man wants to be with. Because there's like, oh my gosh, she is so sexy. Venezuela, you are so sexy because of all the oil you got. Ding, 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 right?
Number 9 is somehow crisis wakes up a nation. And until a certain degree, yes, that happened here in Venezuela. Many people have this socialist mindset, not completely socialist, just that they want to get more that they gave to valid value overall on that situation. Although, yeah, the crisis woke up a lot of people. And the other thing is regarding Venezuela. Venezuela is sexy because it has this olive oil, and it was sexy back then. And I'm gonna say to Patrick with David, Venezuela is sexy in many ways, and my clients know where I'm talking about. Venezuela is a sexy country, so if you want to visit, you're not gonna regret it on the most part.
Number 10, which is who's next? Who's next with this? Who can this happen to next? I know a lot of us are looking at it from an outside. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for people in Venezuela. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for them. Look what they're going through. Look what they're going through. Do you remember how I opened up the video? That a lot of time we look at somebody else going through divorce, cancer, crisis, issues, business going. We look at other people, oh, not us, because we're amazing. It'll never happen to me. It'll never happen to my country. It can happen to any empire.
And number 10 is who's next? That is true that the draconian experience collapse that we have here in Venezuela, it can happen elsewhere, it can happen in the States. I don't trust on the same degree that the States is going to happen the same thing. In Latin America, in other places in Latin America, I'm very certain that's going to happen in one or two places. I'm not going to name names, and it can happen elsewhere when you elect bad politicians and you have bad policies and you have a very disinformed population and a very, I have to say, stupid population. I have to say, yeah, just say. But still can happen in any kind of place at any given time. Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.